But I think we've all seen over the last few years an important evolution in the customer-facing model. And things are moving already into a direction where we're becoming much more nuanced in terms of during the life cycle of a medicine, what is the role of field medical, what is the role of field market access, and what is the role of field sales. I think from my experience, the rollout and integration of novel technology in general is not great, and in particular within the pharma world, where for the field teams, be it field sales team, market access team, or medical team, it tends to be seen as a much more of an art than an actual science. And when technology has come in, it's either been coming as a guise of governance to track what people are doing and second guess what people are doing, or showing that people don't really know what to do, and this is going to tell them what to do. So my experience of Palmer has generally gone down. The way we've tried to communicate that is much more around we're now in a situation where we've got so many riches, so many things we can do, so many tools we can do, but we can't put out all the fires, we can't do everything. And how do we help to prioritize what we do? And out of that list of priorities, which we are much more likely to get traction, that's where the art comes in, and that's where your background comes in, that's where your experience comes in, to apply that as a second layer, rather than just that being the only layer. And that tends to have a lot of traction in empowering the teams, particularly the field medical team. And we've seen that every time we've deployed a new technology to try and help some aspect of that, we've just been overwhelmed with information, overwhelmed with themes. I'll give you an example. Recently, we launched a natural language processing engine to bring in field insights from our field medical team. And we almost had to turn it off after a few months because it was like 20,000 themes and 20,000 insights came in. And people didn't know what to do. And some were telling the blindingly obvious, what do we do with this? And the key is a little bit into what Raz was mentioning in terms of how do we take that next step to distill those themes and insights into actionable insights, and actionable insights at the level of an individual based on what makes sense in their territory, be that field sales, field medical, field market access. But in particular for field medical, where we tend to have much smaller field teams compared to field sales, we need to make a lot more choices in terms of what we should be doing next versus field sales, because field sales are able to just to blanket cover a lot of people just because of the sheer size. But now, in the post-COVID world, and definitely during the COVID world, it's an equal playing field, because now we all, both field sales and field market access and field medical, have the same limited opportunities to interact. And we need to make the best out of each one. And every piece of information that we can get, and learning from what people have done before to tell you what to do next out of the 1,000 choices you have in front of you over the next week is really, really important. So we are, from a medical organization in general, but from BMS in particular, this is something that we're really, really interested in. I think from my experience, the rollout and integration of novel technology in general is not great, and in particular within the pharma world, where for the field teams, be it field sales team, market access team, or medical team, it tends to be seen as a much more of an art than an actual science. And when technology has come in, it's either been coming as a guise of governance to track what people are doing and second guess what people are doing, or showing that people don't really know what to do. And this is going to tell them what to do. So my experience of Palmer has generally gone down. The way we've tried to communicate that is much more around we're now in a situation where we've got so many riches, so many things we can do, so many tools we can do, but we can't put out all the fires, we can't do everything. And how do we help to prioritize what we do? And out of that list of priorities, which we are much more likely to get traction, that's where the art comes in, and that's where your background comes in, that's where your experience comes in, to apply that as a second layer, rather than just that being the only layer. And that tends to have a lot of traction in empowering the teams, particularly the field medical team. I mean, you know, an analogy that I give to not just the field teams, but also the head office teams, but particularly the field teams, when I see their eyes getting a little bit concerned when we're going to roll out something new, is the analogy with satellite navigation. So up until relatively recently, all we had was the A to Z, the London A to Z to get around, and you would look at it before you go out, you put it on your lap, you would try and drive as close as you could to where you wanted to go. Then you would open the map and see how close you were. And now to think back that that's what we used to do is quite crazy. Then satellite navigation came out, and that would just tell you where you are and give you general directions. But now, and that was for me, the digitization of the map. That was digitizing the map. The next evolution came and gave you suggestions of different routes you could take. Now, of course, we have large amounts of real-time and social media information coming in with traffic information, which will tell you and divert you in real time to help you navigate this wide amount of data. And now, if you get in a car and you turn your satellite navigation on and the social media feed is not working or the traffic is not working, and you're driving somewhere, you feel like you're driving blind. You're completely uncomfortable with that feeling. And it's something similar will happen with activities of field teams, because the amount of information that we already have, structured and unstructured, and the amount of information that is coming and that we will be forced to review will mean that using the old manual processes or pure art is something that is not really reliable. And now this two-layer approach with explainable AI, next best action, then applying the art, that is not only you become comfortable with it, you become dependent on it. And that seems to get them over there, get them off the deck. I think we were on a journey, and I think we would have got there eventually. And when I say eventually, I'm talking about single-digit years to fully absorb technology that's mostly quite largely available now. I think the pandemic is going to accelerate for two reasons. One is that we see that access to healthcare professionals is now much more limited, and healthcare professionals are getting used to, for the first time for many of them ever, of not having tremendous amount of interaction either for scientific engagement or promotional market access. And so that's going to be, that reversion is going to be difficult, right? And then the second piece is, from a pharma perspective, we've seen, while no drug will ever sell itself, and I've got a few stories in, I don't think we'll have time to go through this, but where I know that no matter how good the data, no matter how transformational it is, no drug will ever sell itself. You need good, solid marketing and sales for some period of time in some way. I think head office and senior management are now seeing sales continue to evolve, and even drugs that have only relatively recently launched, sales are still going in the right direction in general. At least that's what I've seen in talking to some of my peer groups. So I think both of this will mean there's going to be a lot more stick than carrot to implement novel digital technologies for field teams as part of a complete rethinking and reimagining of what is the role of the customer-facing model in pharma. That's why I believe. Still in the NHS, working in the hospital, we already had started evolving from, for the majority of consultations, the physician telling the patient, this is your diagnosis, this is what I want you to do, this is what you're going to do, and so on and so forth, to the patient coming in with reams of printouts of information, and then the role of the physician was just to help go through that information with the patient. I think that new mindset, which is now quite embedded within healthcare professionals, in conjunction with the new generation of doctors which are coming out, and nurses and pharmacists who are coming out from pharmacy school, medical school, nursing school, around collaborating with the patient, having conversations with the patient rather than instructing the patient and hoping that that will, that'll be good enough, is also changing the way they engage with industry. And they're looking us a little bit differently from a discoverer, manufacturer, and distributor of medicines to much more, hopefully, a partner in the delivery of healthcare. And with that spirit, this, I think, using novel technology to really find areas where we can add value, where there could be misinformation, there could be different uptakes for the wrong reasons, there could be, some things work somewhere else, we can add value to help optimize healthcare, that will land quite well. And I think we'll have an open door to push against.